Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tasha Love Show. I am so excited. Today is such an amazing day, and I have an amazing guest with me, Dr. Corey Montgomery. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So here we're going to be talking about education, and you have done so much in education. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Montgomery?
Let me actually ascend. In other words, let me start from my small beginnings. I started in Broward County School District about 34 years or so as an assistant, a teacher assistant. I always knew that I wanted to be an educator. So my evolution started as a teacher assistant. Then I got my credential to become a teacher. And in that process, my leadership spoke to me or spoke into my life and directed me to consider leadership. At that point, I went back to get my master's degree and became an assistant principal. I did that for about 13 plus years. Then I became an assistant principal. During that particular said time, I began to adjunct teach and really found out that during my principalship that teacher development was really where it was as it relates to the thing that I truly love. So that particular opportunity went from a part-time adjunct position to the director of clinical teaching, which is where I am currently at Miami-Dade College School of Education. And I'm excited about the world of education. So again, that's my humble beginning that has evolved into just something great.
Awesome. I absolutely love, because I feel like you're an educator from the beginning all the way up from education K through 12 all the way to now a professor. And that's where I met you. So my spill on how I met Dr. Montgomery came into I was an educator, teacher, and I was getting my recertification. So for you guys who don't know, teachers, every 5 years, we have to recertify, right? Professional certificate. And I was in class and you were coming in as a guest speaker. And once he spoke, I was like, oh my God. And he was just literally coming in to, do one little segment of the course. So he wasn't the actual teacher at the time. And I actually was so impressed. And I remember after I left the program, I was like, I want to meet you. And so years later, I found out that you were now at, Miami-Dade College, which was where I actually did my recertification. And they do it every summer, actually. And so that was such an amazing story. So let me ask you a question. Education is something that we do, everyone does from K through 12. And you actually are a director of a daycare, which I saw. And like I said, now being all the way to professor. What would you say to actually say what was the driving force for you to actually even get into education? Like you said, you always knew you wanted to be a teacher. Why?
Well, education was my calling. And the good thing is that I was always acquainted in ministries that were clear and concise in terms of giving you directionality. I learned early on that the thing that calls your name every day, that thing that you do very well, more than likely that's your ministry. So I always knew with clarity as a young child that I wanted to teach. What I did is I articulated it to my dad then, who actually propelled me by motivating me to follow that vision and told me I could be anything that I wanted to be. So that was it. Once he affirmed that in me, what I then began to do at that particular said time with that affirmation, I began to take schooling serious. And I explored the particular steps to get there. Another good piece, too, was that during that particular said time in my upbringing, teachers in the community were very open to taking time and opportunity to mentor you. So I'm reminded of teachers like Gwen Cunningham, Miriam Pratt, Mrs. Price, teachers from my given neighborhood. Once they found out that I wanted to be a teacher, many of them poured into me. They provided directionality. And I had mentorship all the way from the point of accepting my calling, coming to the point of understanding my calling, and the evolution of actually even even going through school in order to receive my formal licensure to become a teacher of record. So the big blessing in it all is that once I communicated my vision, God kind of sort of put all of those individuals in place in order to propel me and to provide directionality to move forward. So in essence, they paid it forward, and that's why it's so important to me. That's one of my passions, to make certain that in all I do, that I'm conscientious of always paying it forward.
That's awesome. I love that. Do you remember what age that was, where you actually was it, or what grade you were in, or was there a particular teacher that inspired you to say, I want to be a teacher at such a young age?
I would be openly honest. I would say probably like around about age 9 or 10. I was that clear very early on. My dad would refer to me sometime as an old man. I was always set and clear in terms of what I wanted to do concerning life. So early on, I always knew that I wanted to educate. Around about 15, 16, I even established a club called the Youth Progressive Club. And what it was that it was a club where we basically brought individuals from our neighborhood, Carver Ranches, which is now known as West Park. And we basically empowered them by encouraging them to do well in school. And then we did multiple trips. We kept them engaged or what have you. And even though I was only 15 at that particular said time, Miss Beatrice Clayton, which was a teacher, she kind of sort of underwrote it for me. And what I mean by that is that many of the things that you need an adult to do in order to move forward in that particular club of record, she provided the sign-offs as well as the directionality for me. So as I said, the key thing is that I always had someone before me that was doing the thing that I wanted to do once I grew up. And again, understanding that importance, I always kept individuals very close to me who was actually walking in the place and space that I wanted to be in.
Oh, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. As far as being an educator and all the challenges that you see in education, you've seen so many students. And if you actually did special ed. That's where you started. So you have students who literally start can't even read and write. Sometimes they're even past elementary level. What do you think are the tools that students need at the basic level to actually be successful in K through 12, to be successful before they even get to whether they're going to do college or anything else? What do you think are the skills that those students need?
Well, they need access to what we call school readiness skills. One of the things, and the research is very clear on this, that much of what we learn, believe it or not, is actually captured in around about age 7, from 0 to 7. In other words, just as we build a house, that would basically be our foundation. So in other words, I think that in order for most kids to actually maximize their potential within the context of who God made them to be, they need a firm foundation in which to build on, which would include school readiness skills. It would include motivation. It would include an adult who understands the direction in which they want to go and who can communicate that in children's language as they actually walk them through the particular steps as it relates to their development. So an individual that can help them to clarify those goals and move them along, but more importantly, a firm foundation which starts with school readiness skills and also an understanding of how to make certain that in all that you do, make certain that it's what you truly want to do. So in essence, helping them to know what it is that they want to do and then helping them to understand the steps. So if you will, I would articulate it with the importance of helping them to begin with the end in mind or what have you, but it has to be scripted and articulated in children's language for them so that they could actually conjure and understand the direction in which they're going.
Okay, so like as far as a student who is performing at a DF level and they're trying to be an AB student, what would you say are the tools for success to get them to that level?
Helping them to understand what skills are necessary in order to go where they want to go, and then also helping them to define skill deficits. Skill deficits very clearly would constitute that area in which you struggle. Once you are very clear and concise in terms of the area in which you struggle, if you have the right individual, that particular individual can assist you perhaps in actually taking those particular skills and actually developing them to a place and space where you can build that appropriate foundation that you need. But children need to be able to clearly assess where they stand academically in terms of ability, and they kind of sort of need to fill those gaps. And in filling those gaps has all to do, or a lot to do, with them understanding the direction or directionality in which they're going to go as it relates to their larger goals or what have you. And then more importantly, in that, assisting them in breaking those goals. Marzano calls it digestible bites. So because many individuals may say, well, if they begin with the end in mind, that would basically be too much for a student that's that young. But you break it down in digestible bites. So in other words, if I want to be a teacher and I'm only in 4th grade, it may include me being made conscientious of the particular topics, subjects, and skill sets, and then me perhaps being paired with a teacher that's on fire that could actually pour the passion in me to want to actually move forward in that career. So taking those goals and breaking them down into digestible bites so that I could digest it as a kid, understand it, and I can move forward incrementally as I basically grow and develop toward being whoever it is that I want or I desire to be.
Okay, awesome. So now that you talked about that student, I know you have a plethora of student stories. What was your most successful turnaround story? So a student, probably started, whether it was, not where they wanted to be, and you got them to where they actually desired to be.
I would say I would capture that in terms of my experience at Addicts Middle School. I had a student of record that actually was a non-reader. He was pre-primer and he was in 8th grade. What I had to do in order to compensate and catch him up is I had to take my own personal time in order to remediate the access skill. When I articulate or I use the word access skills, it is a fundamental skill that a student needs in order to be successful or what have you in a regular academic setting. So what am I saying? In terms of clarity, if I'm in 8th grade, I cannot understand complex texts in science or perhaps social studies unless, particularly if I have struggle in reading, if someone is not doing two things, taking time and opportunity to develop the access skill of readability in the area of reading, and in addition to that, giving me exposure to grade level expectations, but providing the appropriate accommodations so that I could break that material down into digestible bites in a comprehensive way and understand that material. So it really takes two things for the most part, making those appropriate accommodations available so that every student in the class, particularly the student of record that I'm naming, has access to it. So it took me breaking things down into digestible bites for him, and it took me above and beyond the context of the school day, taking time and opportunity to teach him how to read. Lo and behold, now he's a pastor. He's been a commissioner. He's actually thriving at this particular said time. And he always takes time and opportunity to remind me of the investment that I actually place within his life to propel him. He always, even when he was a struggling reader, he always had big goals. So again, with that said, I helped them to understand how important important it is for you to develop your level of readability, and you have to be willing to put into work. So his willingness matched with my willingness got him to where he needed to be.
That's an awesome success story. I love that. So as far as going from teaching K through 12, doing leadership as far as administration, becoming a principal, and now transitioning into being professor, now you're teaching the teachers. So what do you think, as far as if someone wants to be a teacher, what do they need to have? What are the tools that they need to have?
To be openly honest, I'm personally connected to this particular question of record. Just make certain in terms of foundation that teaching is your gift and your calling. Again, many come, but not all are called or what have you. Many of us think that that's a preachy type topic or that belongs in the context of church, but no, in education and other places as well. It is my thought that when you are an individual that's called to teach, that the giftings are already in place, that the learning and the teacher development only enhances that inherent gift that's already there. So just making certain that it is truly the particular thing that you have been called to do, and being the willingness to actually put in the work in order to be an impactful educator. You got to be willing to put in the work. Because when I decided that, or made it very clear, and that was during my very early age, that I was going to be a teacher, many people articulated to me that, well, they don't make good money. But the good thing about it is, like I told you, I always found somebody that was ahead of me in whatever it is that they were doing. A professor told me that's not so. That if you have passion, and these are the particular skill sets and amenities or attributes that I try to make certain that teachers that I'm developing make certain that they understand. You need passion. You need to be on fire about teaching and learning. You need to be willing to develop yourself and to keep up. And you need to be responsive to the nature and needs of those that are actually in front of you. So with that said, or what have you, one of the things that I actually take pride in as it relates to teacher development as the director of clinical teaching, and I keep it alive too by continuing to teach. So therefore, I still am an associate professor as well at Miami-Dade College, so that I can continue to keep that magic alive, continue to have impact in developing teachers, not only with skill set, tool sets, and mindset, but just making certain that those teachers are equipped and ready, set, go to meet the many and varied needs of the 21st century learner.
Awesome, awesome. So let me ask you a question. You are a minister as well, and you were talking about this calling, this passion. How would you tell the audience as far as how do they find out what is it that they're actually called to do? Again,
it's that thing that calls your name at night. One of my major ministries, or what have you, that God has given me in addition to administration, is that because I truly believe in the gifts of administrations, because too many churches run raggedy and all over the place. So I believe in making certain that there's a set order within that context. But also in worship, or what have you, it calls my name. Administration calls my name. When people are putting said things together, whether it's within the church realm or within the context of the educational realm, I'm consistently reflecting on how I would organize those processes. So whatever, and perhaps do things different, or what have you. When worship comes forth, it takes nothing, not even a snap of a finger, to engage me, simply because it calls my name. So again, just being mindful of that thing that calls your name, and understand that it has to go above and just beyond the calling of the name. You have to be willing to take that gifting and actually develop that gifting. And the key thing that I love about myself, and this may seem that I'm bragging at this particular point, I'm very teachable. So it is my desire, or whatever. I never get in front of my pastor. I never get in front of those that are in leadership. I never get in front of my dean of college at Miami-Dade College School of Education. What I may do, I may sense the directionality in which they are attempting to go. I size that up and I say, okay, given the giftings that God has given me, how can I propel that ministry next level within the context of what my particular giftings are? So just being purposeful, intentional, and willing to develop that particular gift to a place of excellence. I believe that you should always operate in the spirit of excellence, whether it's ministry or whether it's education.
Oh, that's amazing. So a success story as far as now being a professor. So you have that amazing success story. And I want to meet this person who went from couldn't even read to, with your help and your, guidance, he's now a commissioner and a pastor. What is one of your greatest success story as far as being at the collegiate level? Now, I will say me, right? Because of the fact that even in that short moment that I saw you come in as a guest teacher at the collegiate level, I was so impressed. And to see years later when I came back to South Florida and was looking for you and saw that you were now actually on the faculty in the School of Education. So, and then now here we are, right? And so you're here on my show, and I feel like that was just such a circle moment. But what was one of your success story, one of your greatest moments at the collegiate level?
I would say it's a collective moment, and more specifically, it's igniting the passion. There are some times that you have individuals that are preparing in a teacher prep program to be an educator, and they're doing well. They could even actually take a teaching and learning experience and take it next level, but I don't see the passion. So I think one of my biggest, I would say, my biggest flex within the context of education is the ability to impart the passion. And once I impart the passion or give individuals an understanding where they connect to what we in education, we call it the affective dimensions of teaching and learning. It has nothing to do with skill set and tool set, because I can have a sting as bad as a bumblebee or what have you as an educator as it relates to greatness, but don't have impact simply because students are not, that passion is not there. So therefore, when the affective dimensions are so important, is because that's what students connect to. In addition to me being overly prepared when it's time to teach, whether it's at the collegiate level or whether it was during my PK-12 experience, the fact that I was the fact that I was on fire and excited about that particular assignment that was given to me, it always made a difference, and it connected to students, because students always felt, how do I know? Because even in my PK-12 experience, those students were sophisticated enough to let me know that they basically felt the love, they felt the passion. And even at the collegiate realm, taking students to a point of understanding that in addition to the skill set, tool sets, and mindset, that you truly need that ability or what have you to ignite the fire. You have to have the passion, because that makes the difference. That particular immolation is what actually takes the student who don't want to learn to a level, a place and space of desiring to learn, and not only desiring to learn, being just as excited about it as you are. So the affective dimensions of teaching and learning are very important, that we help students to connect to, if you will. I've helped students or teachers that I've developed, I help them to connect to the personal connectivity that is really necessary in order to meet the many and varied needs of the 21st century student.
Okay. So what would you say is the top three practical tips to ignite that passion in a teacher? Because a lot of teachers are burned out. We hear it all over. Teachers feel like they're underpaid. They feel like they're not appreciated. And so what would you say are those three things that will ignite that passion into a teacher who's like on the verge of saying, I don't even know why I'm here anymore, right? After
Correct.
Whether it's 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know if I can continue on. What would you say are those things?
I would say very clearly, that's an easy one. I would say define your why. If your why has gotten a little raggedy and out of sorts, redefine your why. Or whatever. Intentionality and purpose are so important. You got to be purpose driven in this walk, particularly with some of the struggles of today's child. And I say say mentorship. That's the second one. You have to find someone that's ahead of you that is just as excited about teaching and learning or what have you, that is consistently reviewing the literature, that is consistently actively engaged. You want to find someone who is already there. I'm talking about in that place and space that you actually want to be in. And then I think the particular last piece is actually taking time and opportunity to consistently develop your craft. You have to consistently develop your craft. So in other words, or what have you, if you are a professor, like at current, my team, we're actually doing the ISTE certifications, which is a technology integration certification. And I've been in this for 34 plus years. Many people would say, man, I thought, no, I'm just as excited today as I was when I actually began my career in education. So in order to continue that excitement and to actually be impactful in what you do, you have to redefine or define that why. You have to make certain that you find that individual that's in front of you, and you have to make sure that you consistently make certain that you're sharpening your craft by reading, reviewing literature, taking courses, and and not only that, taking time and opportunity to actually pay it forward to other individuals that want to move forward or what have you in the field of education.
Okay, wonderful. Now, I know you said you're an author, and it's 2 books. Can you tell us about these 2 books?
Very clearly. The first is Ask Grandma Pearl. Ask Grandma Pearl is actually, in short synopsis, it is a book. My mom passed away when I was 3 years old. Back in the day, things were a little different. My grandma actually had to take on that role in many instances, and she did not skip a beat. It is a book that takes time and opportunity to relish the importance of our elders and the wisdom that they bring, and the goal of it in terms of its timeliness today for today's audience is to motivate students to actually relish and respect the wisdom that perhaps grandpa or uncle basically brings to the table. So that's what I ask. And as a matter of fact, this particular said book, I just got off the phone just before this interview. So I'm not ready to unveil it as of yet, but a major publishing company is now interested in it, and they're in the process of helping me to make a decision whether or not I want to actually reinvent it and take it next level. So that's an opportunity that's before me as well.
That's awesome.
And then this particular other publishing is a multiple case study of successful inclusion programs within Broward County schools. In short, this actually encompasses what we talked about the struggling learner, and that struggling learner is actually, or at-risk student learner has been an individual. I've always been attracted to the underdog. And what the multiple case study of inclusion is about, it is, I took time and opportunity within the Broward County school system to actually do multiple case studies of learning communities that made what we call adequate yearly progress. So in other words, they were taking students with exceptionalities, and these learning communities were moving these students academically or what have you, even though they had disabilities. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to frame their work and capture it to find out what is it that you're doing when so many other learning communities, with not only in the context of Broward schools, but within the context of the state of Florida, are having struggles bringing struggling learners to a point of adequate yearly progress, or teaching them at grade level expectation. Why are you guys having so much success in doing that? And the value of my findings provide the particular educational practitioner with the tools in order to make certain that struggling learners, given certain interventions as well as accommodations, can actually work at grade grade level expectation, or to improve with adequate yearly progress year by year toward the ultimate goal of preparing for college, career, and life readiness.
Oh, wow. Was that your dissertation?
That was my dissertation, and what I chose to do by choice, I chose to publish it through ProQuest, which is a international clearinghouse of some of your top published works or what have you internationally, because I personally felt that I wanted the book or the work or the research that I put in it to actually be able to get into the hands of educators who could actually review the related literature as well as the research and actually make the magic for exceptional student learners in the classroom.
That is awesome. Wow, that's your dissertation in the flesh. I know dissertation, you go to school for 3 years and you do all that research. So the fact that you were able to get it published is amazing. I want to find out from you, and like I said, the Tasha Love Show, we really center about loving, right? And you love what you do, obviously love what you do, and which is what would you tell the audience as far as how do they get to the place, whether it's a child, whether it's a teenager, whether it's an adult, whether it's someone, teaching and been teaching for years and now they're trying to decide, how do you inspire people or tell people the tips on how to do what they love? Like literally do what you love and be successful at it. What would you say?
Okay, you have to remain flat-footed in asking, because be reminded, I communicated the story of how so many people tried to take away the gifting. See, people even told me that, no, you're too smart to do that education thing or what have you. And you have to make certain that you articulate to, if it's a child in children's language, do not negotiate that talent, that God-given talent that is consistently calling your name. Do not negotiate or what have you. If you are clear that that is your calling, if you are clear or what have you, I know we're talking in an educational context, but if you're clear that that's what God said, you need to go after it. Or what? So again, one of the things that I would admonish them to do is that when you're clear and very clear, without negotiation, go after that thing that God has said concerning your life. And what I do is I do it not without negotiation or what have you. I move forward. And again, I've always been blessed in doing the work. So, and then you also need to make certain that within the context of whatever it is, that you give it some directionality. I always use, when I'm mentoring people, I always utilize the saying of, I talk about going in circles, and I always admonish them, do not go in circles, with clarity. Find out where it is that you're going to take that gift, and find out where it is that you can appropriately use that gift and unleash it. You do not want to be all over the place. So clear directionality or what have you is a very important thing as well. And then that other piece that I consistently go back to, you got to find other individuals. Once you find that thing or what have you that you like, that you love and adore, you have to find other individuals that are just as on fire as you are, who've already did that thing. So it's very important that you find those that are before you so that you could actually move forward. And that's the advice that I would give anyone who wants to come into grips with their passion, their particular God-given ability, and want to take that and actually take it next level.
Awesome. That's a great response. So what is your why now? Like, what your why has probably changed over the course of, 34 years. What is your why?
Well, my why at this particular time or what have you, let me just align it with my purpose. My purpose very clearly is to make certain that I take time and opportunity to actually make individuals passionate about whatever it is that I do. So my why is clearly defined in helping individuals to, if you will, to outline and clearly define their dream and actually run after that particular dream and get it, and even provide directionality, because there are so many individuals that I ghostwrite for or do behind the scenes for, whether it's a pastor that is putting something together, and sometimes I'll surprise that particular individual, put it all together and say, here, this is how it looks like in a certain said format or what have you. I like to take the dreams of other individuals and actually give it clarity, give it focus, and make it concrete for individuals. So my why is rooted and grounded in making certain, just like as God has given me the opportunity to enjoy my journey immensely, my goal is to make certain that other individuals come to grips with their dream, whether it's ministry, whether it is education, and that they ignite it with a passion that goes above and beyond what anyone could even imagine or what have you, so that they could themselves make impact and then help individuals understand the importance of paying it forward. When I got opportunity at Miami-Dade College, it was Dr. Shanika Taylor who actually opened the opportunity for me. And every opportunity I get, I actually thank her for it. And she's so humble. She always just say, Montgomery, whatever you do, make certain that you pay it forward. And again, Dr. Shanika Taylor, I will continue to pay it forward.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything next, really quick? Like, what's next for Dr. Montgomery?
I like to call this phase of my life, since I'm actually going into year 35 in education, as my pre-retirement years. We've already started, just to kind of sort of broaden my worldview, we started traveling. Last year we went to South Africa. We're going to, in March, we're going to Thailand. So to increase my worldview, I want to take time and opportunity to begin traveling the world. In addition to that, I'm getting ready to slow down and do a sequel to my book, Ask Grandma Pearl, and also do some additional writing as well, both ministerial, educational-wise, and some also under the category of children's books. So that is what is up and coming, and more importantly, as I'm getting older, developing the craft of becoming a professional person. And what I mean about that, someone who is thoughtful, someone who cares, someone who is willing to reach out, someone who's willing to share. It seems very, very elementary, but it's funny how the older we get, how the more simple things in life become the most important things in life. And as I'm increasing in my age and my wisdom, I'm realizing that it is those small things that we thought were once insignificant that are so significant.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see all those things, the next book. And this was an amazing interview. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And thanks for the invite.
Yes.